and you are listening to It's My Life with your host Chaya Srivatsa, and as always, a guest of mine who I will be introducing to you shortly. What is our subject going to be today? It's always a challenge. What do we talk about? Because all those who come and sit in front of me as my guest are so multifaceted, I really wouldn't know what to talk about them. Shall I talk about this about you, or that about you, or that about you? But then it's my life, okay? We'll talk about everything that happens in the person's life. But everybody has some core competence that we home on. And today my guest is a writer. Women have always been good communicators. So writing is actually very easy, comes very easily to them. And the person I have with me was earlier a journalist, a corporate woman, turned writer again. So you see, she takes off her hat, wears it again, takes it off again. It's as easy as that. So let's hear from my guest today. How does she do it? What comes first? Or is there anything that comes first, or does it all happen concurrently? Get ready to listen to my guest, Janaki Murali. Welcome, Janaki.
Hello, Chaya. Thank you for calling me here.
Actually, I don't know whether I should thank you for coming here or you should thank me for calling you here. So we'll do away with the mutual thank you procedures and start off with Janaki. I just said that you have many, many hats that you wear on and off. What hat would you like to start off with?
I would like to start off with journalism, because journalism has been a huge career for me. I have spent 25 years in journalism.
Okay.
And I just attended a recently writer's workshop.
Mm-hmm.
So another writer was saying that, writing is a passion and you are always a writer. And I agree with that. I'm always a writer. Then when we came back, another writer was saying, and she also said, don't hold day jobs. Writing should be your complete passion.
Okay.
So
full-time job.
Yes. When we came out of this, so some of us writers were discussing, and there was this writer, she said, I love my day job. She's a psychologist during the day.
Okay.
So she said, I love my day job. Why should I not have that as a career while I also write?
Mm-hmm.
So writing can be a passion while my day job is also a passion. Is that wrong? So I just went back to my own life, and I was always making these apologies for myself. I'm not writing enough because I have a day job, I have to spend 8 hours on that, and I write during the weekends and all that, because I started writing from the age of maybe 16 or so. My first story got published when I was 16.
Okay.
So I was constantly battling with this in my head. I'm not writing enough, because I have a day job. I need to earn money and all that.
But tell me something. What is this enough about it? Is there some kind of a yardstick by which if you're a writer, you must write that many words in a day or that many paragraphs in a day or something like that?
No, you're comparing yourself to other writers.
Okay.
You're constantly comparing. See,
why can't you just be a writer? I mean, you write because you feel like writing.
Yeah, but you need to get them published. It can't be in your head and it can't be in your computer,
correct,
right?
But why compare? That's all I want to know.
Yeah, you do tend to compare, because see, when we had this conversation, it sort of settled in my mind that it doesn't have to be like that. I think this happened just about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So 2 weeks ago, I realized, yes, I had a career in journalism and I was writing a lot. I was writing fact, and I didn't have enough time to write creative work. That's fine, because I loved my role as a journalist. And then I went into corporate life. So even that I loved, 6 years of that. So maybe I couldn't write creative fiction as much as I would have wanted to, like the greats. Vikram Seth is my favorite. So looking at them, who have completely devoted themselves to writing, they are able to produce a lot more books than someone like me who has to battle.
But for them, it's a profession, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they're professional writers.
Yeah, they're professional writers, but that's, I think, as a writer, you're constantly battling this in your head that I'm not able to write enough. As you said.
Okay.
What is enough? When you say what is enough is maybe, like you said, 1,000 words a day.
And we are talking about what is enough. Who lays the parameters for you're writing enough? Okay. So we are talking about by way of words, number of words. If you write 1,000 words a day, if you write 10,000 words a day, are you a bigger writer? Or is it dependent on how much you get published?
I would say how much you get published finally.
Okay.
Because see, maybe if you're writing 10,000 words and at the end of the week you have to pare it down to some 1,000 words. Because if it's a 1,000 word short story, say, so you might have written 10,000 words and then at the end of the week you say, you concise it to 1,000 words.
Okay.
So the number of words, I think George Bernard Shaw said, I mean, we go by all the other writers who have said these things. So George Bernard Shaw said, whatever I do, I have to write these 1,000 words a day. So I think that's how this whole thing of 1,000 words a day started. You know, if you're a writer, you should write 1,000 words a day. So whatever happens. So, but with many of us, you know, writing doesn't pay as unless you get those high advances.
Okay, I want to get one thing sorted out here, Janaki.
Yeah.
Okay, because you've been using these words, you know, creative. You used that word once. Now you're saying pay. Okay, and then this conflict. Okay, is writing a hobby? Is it a profession? Is it a money spinner? It is, for different people, different things.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Exactly.
For some, those who have a full-time job and they want to do, it's a hobby.
Yes.
For people like Vikram Seth that you're talking about, they're professional writers.
Yeah, correct.
And maybe like people like Sidney Sheldon and Frederick Fawcett and people like that, it's a money spinner.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
You're right.
Or for some people who want to make a statement on, you know, like feminism, or like Geeta Arvamadam, for example. She wrote about disappearing daughters. So she was trying to make a statement there about how the female feticide and all this is getting, stopping girls from being born. Okay? So
Exactly.
that's with a purpose. And that doesn't matter really whether it's 10,000 words or 20,000 words. Isn't it?
You're right.
So what are we going to talk about today? Are we going to talk about hobby writing, professional writing, vis-a-vis you?
I would say writing is a passion for me.
All
So
right.
it's difficult to define. Yes, no, it's not a money spinner. And I'm not a professional writer, as you said.
Okay.
Because I have always held day jobs, you know, till I think till about 2 months ago, when I've decided enough is enough. I've spent a lot of my time in day jobs. Now I'm only going to be writing.
Okay.
So now I'm only going to be writing. But writing has always been a passion for me.
Okay, let's go back to always, right from the beginning. You said your first short story got published when you were 16.
Yeah,
Let's
that's right.
take this journey from that time. What made you write that? What did you write about? And whom did you write for?
Actually, I wrote a story about my. It became a short story. It was an incident that had happened in my family's life. My brother had got lost and my mom had gone in search of him in Calcutta. She had told us this story at some time.
Okay.
So I wrote about this as a short story and I was looking to get it published. So my brother was so fascinated with the story, he went and got it published in his college magazine.
Okay.
And in my name, he wrote my name as a pen name because it was his college magazine. He didn't know how to. So he wrote it as a pen name, but that was the first story that got published. Then I was just 16 and he said, hey, here's your story and all that. So, and then in college, I was already writing short stories and they got published in magazines that became defunct later on, you know, Eve's Weekly. And then there was another magazine from Chennai called Adam and Eve.
Yes.
So they were, so stories came in all these and I never got paid. So when you ask, yes, it was a passion. So, but it wasn't a hobby. I never ever thought of writing as a hobby.
Okay.
Because I was writing whatever happened. You know, whatever happened in my life was always writing. So it was never a hobby. So it was a passion. I had to find time for it. You know, when I had children, I had to find time in between everything. Because hobby, I think, I don't know, hobbies can become passion, but I always, I'm wary about calling something so passionate a hobby.
Hobby, okay.
Yeah.
Hobby is more like a time pass, you feel.
Yeah, this
Whereas
is not
for you,
a time
writing
pass.
was more than that.
Yeah.
And you said you were a journalist for 25 years.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
how, were you on board a publication or were you an independent journalist?
I've always been with newspapers.
Okay.
So I started my life with Indian Express like a lot of us did. And Then after Indian Express, it was...
So you were a kind of a reporter types.
Yeah. No, I started with the desk initially. Okay. I was on the desk. Indian Express was on the desk. Then I joined Economic Times. I was again on the desk. Then later I switched to reporting. I went into Deccan Chronicle where I was a reporter. And then after that, Business Line, 10 years in Business Line, business reporter. So again, Deccan Herald was my last job where I was the editor of the edit page.
Okay.
So I was heading the edit page and the opinion page. And so both those panorama page I started in Deccan Herald. So those are the two pages I was heading before I went into, I switched to corporate life.
Before we talk about that, let's talk a little more about being a journalist, okay? Journalism is all about writing.
Yeah.
And the kind that you're talking about when you're working for a publication. There's really not much scope for creativity, is there?
Yeah. No, there is no creativity, it's facts. But then I think as a writer, you can do both. You can write facts. In fact, a lot of
in a creative manner.
Not really. Not really, because as a reporter, you have to be very factual. You cannot be creative.
Correct.
You have to just write the facts. Where you can be creative is when you're writing features. When you're writing for the Sunday magazine and all that. That's where you can bring your language out and you can be creative with your language. But not when you're reporting. You have to have your facts out. And where you can be creative, like you said, is when you're presenting the story the way it has to be presented. What is going to be your lead? And as journalists, I remember we used to sit in press conferences and as people were talking, we would take down notes and we would put a cross against something or important cross, We would know that's the lead. And I would check with the others and by then everybody would have got the same cross against that. This is our lead. So if you're a good journalist, you would know as people are talking which part of that is your lead. And so these were very exciting times in journalism during that.
Always in Bangalore?
In Hyderabad too. I was in Hyderabad with Deccan Chronicle. And I did a lot of interesting work then. I ran a campaign on child brides in Deccan Chronicle. After this child bride was saved, there was a child bride who was saved by an air hostess called Amina. So I followed the whole Amina case and I'd written several stories. I'd gone to madrasas and talked to mullahs and found out what the problems were. Gone to Charminar, beyond Charminar, went into these lanes and, all those lanes where these people were, why were they getting their children married off at the age of 11 and 12?
Why? So, what did you find out at the end of it all?
Poverty, just poverty.
Yeah, what else?
Pure poverty and nothing else.
I think there was a movie also by Shah Benegal, Bazaar or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
About how she's sold.
Yeah. And in fact, when Amina's case came up, with a lot of journalists, we were following up this case so closely. And we did, I should, along with me, of course, a lot of other journalists who had campaigned it, we were able to bring the government to take action, and they set up centers for rehabilitation of these girls. And they were called quote-unquote Arab-affected girls.
Okay.
Because these girls are all getting married off to Arabs.
And so, why did they come here to get them?
They were just taking these girls and we never knew what happened to these girls after that. Maybe they were taken.
You mean they were taken and they just vanished after that?
The parents felt that they were actually marrying them off so that they felt secure in some way, or in their own mind probably felt that we had married off these girls. Actually.
At the age of 11, 12, 13.
11, 12. They felt they were providing them some means of
livelihood and
livelihood mainly.
They never thought of educating these girls.
No, they didn't have the money. They didn't have the money.
They have madrasas which are free.
I remember this Amina's father, Badruddin, I used to keep going to their place, and after they rehabilitated this girl, they were the government had provided embroidery. Somebody used to come and teach Amina and her sisters and her mother embroidery, so they had a way of income. And there was a government teacher who used to come and teach them at home.
Okay.
So they had the parda and all that. So Badruddin would say, there was so much press publicity about this girl, and what did I get out of it? I got nothing out of it. So that's a kind of
Attitude.
A lot of my journalist friends were saying, how can he be so cruel? But I felt it was just poverty talking. You know? And he was just an auto driver or something. And I think he didn't have a job for some time. And
So he thought she's his income generating.
because of all this press publicity, I mean, what did I get out of it? Nothing, Sad actually sometimes, when you see such cases.
Did you find that this happened in a particular community, or was it generally poverty? Is it poverty?
It's just poverty. It's
not
just
nothing to do with any particular
nothing to do with the
community?
community because they were doing a lot of good work at the madrasas. I had gone and seen the kind of good work that they were doing. And there were a lot of NGO organizations that were working with the community. And they were doing a lot of good work. So it's nothing to do. I mean, whatever community you are in, poverty can be very debilitating. It can be terrible.
And isn't it strange that poverty, you find a solution to your poverty through the beti of the house, not through the beta. And the beta is not used to alleviate poverty, but the beti's body is used to alleviate poverty.
Well, the beta is also used. He's sent out to work.
Yeah, he's sent out to work.
probably working in the farms.
Yeah.
So they probably think that the beti is also working in some way. The way she can.
No, but by selling her?
It's very sad, because
That's what I'm
I
saying.
was in that situation covering all these, and there was another girl we tried to save, She was getting married off to an Arab, and the media was there, and we found out, and the media just descended on the house, and the Arab ran away. They were with cameramen and TVs and everything. They were all around the house. So the Arab ran away, and the wedding didn't happen. So the next day I went back again to speak to the family, and when we went, they said, you can't bring I had gone with the cameraman, and they said, no, we will not talk to the press. But I don't know, somehow they said, okay, come and we will have a chat. So when we were chatting, she said, yesterday they all stood there and stopped me from getting married. Will any of those reporters come and marry me now? Which was, I led with that. I led with that in
The girl said that.
The girl said that. Will any of those reporters come and marry me? And then she was telling me how difficult it is for them, the life that they have, live with several children, and they have dowries, and, it's difficult for the fathers to find dowry to get these girls married off. So when an Arab comes bearing gifts kind of thing, saying, I'll take care of this girl, and he pays money for the family. And the family can live in that money for the next 2 years.
In other words, in a very, very blunt words, he buys the girl from them.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, they're okay because they think the girl is going to have a good life.
Yeah, because her elder sister had been in a similar situation, and she had come back home with 2 children. So I told her, aren't you seeing this? Your elder sister has come back with 2 children. And she said, how does it matter? He's still paying for them.
Okay, so money.
The Arab father of these children was sending money for this girl and the 2 children. So the sister, the elder sister, had good clothes to wear. The children were going to a good school, and she said, "Look at them. So what if they're living with us? She's got a good life. I too want those kind of clothes, and I want that kind of life."
So she wasn't happy that you released her.
Yeah, she. So sometimes you don't know, when you think sitting on this high horse, we think, we are releasing
Liberating
these children
women
and all that. We're doing this for them. It's for their own good. But in the situation that they are in, this is a kind of escape.
Realities.
This girl actually felt it was a good escape, that she could have gone away, she could have led a good life. So what if he was older? So what if he was 70 years old? It didn't really matter, because she felt that even if we abandoned her, she would have come back with a lot of money. While here she didn't know what her future was.
She was stuck here.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you feel as a woman, Janaki? What do you feel about this?
It's very sad,
Isn't
it's very
it?
sad. In fact, like in Amina's case, when she was coming back,
in short, for those who don't know about the Amina case, can you just in short tell us what happened in that?
Okay, Amina was a young girl. She was only 12 years old, and she was married off to an Arab who was 60 plus.
Oh my God. Okay.
And they were going from Hyderabad to the Gulf countries, and there was this Ahluwalia was an air hostess who was in the flight, and this girl was crying, and so she asked her, what's happening? Why are you crying? So she told her the story that I'm being married off to this man. So she'd already been married off, I think. So she said, do you want to go with him? And she said, no, I don't want to go with him. So I think by the time they reached Delhi, this air hostess raised an alarm and got the Delhi
police to come.
Yeah, and I think the NGOs and the women's welfare and all of them got in, and they rescued this girl. So Amrita Ahluwalia was the air hostess. So Amrita had even said that she was willing to adopt this girl, but of course the parents came in and took the child back and. Yes.
Tell me more about Amina, how this girl Ahluwalia rescued her. And we were talking about how some women don't want to be rehabilitated.
They don't want to be rehabilitated because the situation that they are in is, I think we cannot comment.
No, let's not comment, but this is not really being judgmental or making a critique of it. But what I want to know, Janaki, is that we are so many of us as women's organizations. Okay? So many of us women who have achieved in life, who have done well and who feel passionately like you feel about writing. We do feel passionately about women and women's causes. How is it that we have not been able to come up with something where, why can't poverty be alleviated by educating, empowering by other means? Why do we just justify that, okay, because they are poor, they are doing this? Why can't we give them an alternative?
I don't know, because I am not an NGO. I've been a journalist where only reporting facts was what I was doing.
Yeah, but you're a woman, don't you? Yeah. How do you feel about it?
I'm not sure, because I always, when I went there, I was totally taken in by what they were telling me, and I would just report what they were saying. So
you were not really processing everything yourself.
No, I was processing in a way, because I remember when Amina came out from Delhi, and the journalists were there at the airport, and Ahluwalia, Amrita was also there, and Amina was coming back to Hyderabad after nearly 2 months of all the processes that were going on in Delhi. So when she came back, and there was all these cameras, and I could only see this frightened little girl, She was just 11 or 12, and my daughter was the same age, So I was processing, saying, I don't want that for my daughter. I don't want her to be in that situation where all these cameras are facing her, and she's, she's struggling to answer questions, and people are protecting her from that. But we were the media, we were doing our job.
Okay. Is the media really doing its job by doing this, or you're getting what you call sensational news for your papers, or
unless you wrote that, how would people know? You have to write about it. When you write about it, after you write about it is when you analyze. See, when you ask me, when do you process? I process when I analyze and I write an editorial, or when I write an opinion piece on that. So till then, when I'm reporting, I'm just reporting. I'm just reporting as facts, what I see.
Yeah. Okay.
But when I go back, because I have also headed the edit page, and I've been writing editorials for several years. So when I started writing edits, they were all on social issues. So that's when I start processing. So all those years of reporting helps you when you become an editor and you're starting to process these and write about these, you analyzing them. That's when you start analyzing. But as a reporter, you cannot analyze, because when you analyze, you're not a reporter.
Correct.
You analyze when you become an editor. So those two roles are very different. So the processing starts when you go back and you say, at the end of the week, all this has happened, I'm going to write an opinion piece. Then you start processing and you question. All these questions that you're asking, I ask those questions
subsequently
then.
You ask them.
I ask those questions then. Is there some way we can make changes? Is somebody doing something? That's when you say, okay, even if you make a small change, like there was so much of criticism. So many children and they're not doing anything, and the community is not doing anything. So I would, when those kind of talk was going on, I would go out and find out, is the community doing enough? They were doing a lot of stuff. So, things like that. There is a lot of NGOs are doing so much work, but there never seems to be enough. That's the problem. People are doing good work, but so all these things are continuing to happen. Because I've even written about prostitution. I've gone to a brothel and I've covered what was happening there. And it was such a sad situation. Then you come back and say, they're selling their body, but they have no other way of income. So if they're selling their body, so be it. So be it. If that is how they need to live, they need to still survive. They need to support a family back home. And this is the only way they can do it. Then there has been all this talk about let's legalize prostitution. So, then the if there is no other way for these women, what can you do? Then let's legalize it.
Okay.
So that they have some kind of support systems and all that. So, it's difficult to
it's a vicious
sit
circle.
back and because we are educated, you said, this shouldn't happen.
We are more protected.
Because our children are protected.
Totally, yes.
Yeah, so we cannot say, this shouldn't happen, It is happening. It is happening. So what is it that we can do as writers is write about it and ensure that more people hear. And maybe we can't go and solve the issue because as writers, you can't go and solve it. There are NGOs who are doing it. There's a government who's doing it. So you can push them to do it. So my writing about Amina pushed the government to set up rehabilitation centers. That was my role. So my role ends there.
That's a pretty good role.
Yeah, that's the role. So when you
become a catalyst to reformation, rehabilitation, and all that.
Media persons are just catalysts. So do we sensationalize? Sometimes you have to sensationalize so that you shock people into action. So I would never, I've been a media person for 25 years. So whenever somebody comes and says, you guys sensationalize stuff, but that gets action, isn't it?
Yeah. Like now they're talking about the newsreels that happen, that anything, they sensationalize that. But you see a movie, it's again exaggerating a certain situation. You see soaps, they are exaggerating.
Yeah.
But underlying all that is a message which comes out.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is a message of don't do this because this is what's going to happen to you.
See, exaggeration also happens because you need to dramatize to sell.
Yeah.
Right.
To attract attention.
Yeah, to catch attention. See, in a movie, if you're going to if it's going to be a documentary, how many people watch documentaries? So you need to make it
masala film or something.
A kind of, even as I told you, how best do you write a story, which is your best lead. So you need to catch the attention of the people. In fact, I had an editor in one of the newspapers, I think it was I don't remember the newspaper. He used to tell us, I think it was in Deccan Chronicle only, my chief reporter used to say, if your story hits page 1 and there is a question in the Lok Sabha, you've made it. So that's when you've caught the attention of the right people. So he would say, ensure you write a story that it goes, and he would say, okay, Legislative Assembly is in session. So if we have a story, and he would say, if it's something that can wait, let's put out the story when the Legislative Assembly is in session so that there is action. It's about, so we would write about something when the session is happening. So the story is out in the papers on page 1. Legislative Assembly the next day takes it up and there is someone who's talking about it. So they are the powers that be. They are the government. They can take action.
Yeah.
So when you write something, there has to be some action. We can't take the action. We can write about it. So instead of, that is where when you say sensationalize, we could have written the story 10 days earlier.
Correct.
We would keep the story and bring it when a session is happening so that some action can be taken.
So there is a kind of social commitment to all these, on the journalists also.
Yes. I think all journalists are socially committed. I would never agree when, of course, like you said about today's journalism is sensationalism.
I think that's
we
because
need to catch TRPs, television is catching
I think it's
TRPs.
because there's so much of crowding in that space.
Yeah.
You need to shout.
Yeah, you need to
raise
shout
your
to
hand
be
and
heard.
say, listen to me too, kind of thing.
Yeah, you need to be you need to shout to be heard. I think that's what has happened right now, and I don't want to make any apologies for what journalism has become today, because I've been a journalist for 25 years and and I will always protect my profession.
No, it's not a question of protecting. I think for all of us, journalism is important because they are the people telling us what's happening. I've been one too, and of course I've been more of a feature journalist, but the people who tell us about what's happening every day, but as long as they are sure of their facts.
Yeah, and
the people who give a bad name, the black sheep of journalism, are the ones who twist and turn the whole thing with vested
Chaya,
interest.
every profession has that, doesn't it? I mean, every profession has its black sheep. And
Correct,
what
I
you
agree
talk
with
about
you.
yellow journalism, it's there. I mean, we all know. I belong to newspapers that were very high in integrity, and we were always told.
And they're still surviving.
Yeah, I was part of the Hindu group for 10 years. So we used to be asked to check and cross-check and check and cross-check our facts. I would never put out a story that was not completely cross-checked. If a source had given me, I mean, we all wrote stories that sources gave us.
Of course.
These
but
sources,
you also checked with the other party.
the sources were very reliable.
Okay.
You know, I would only go with a story. No, I may not have had to check with another party. The sources would be very reliable sources that I could be totally tip and, I could give my life out for.
Why did you give up this? It sounded so interesting. You were doing some good work. Why did you give up journalism and go into corporate life?
I wanted to write. Actually,
you were writing as a journalist.
I was writing a lot of factual stuff.
Okay.
And I said, my creative writing. I had written a book already in between some time, and I said I'm not writing, as I started earlier saying, I'm not writing enough creative stuff. So I had these books that were all lying in my comp, and it had not got out and not been published. Mm-hmm. So I wanted more time to get into the creative writing again and get out of this daily, journalism is full of high
deadlines and
adrenaline pumping stuff, and every minute there is action. So,
and you went into corporate life?
Yes.
Thinking it's going to slow down there?
Actually, I had the weekend. So
but what about the 5 days?
You don't have
5 days of...
I know. And
you went into an IT company.
Yes, I went into an IT company.
Which is even more high-powered than journalists.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I liked doing what I did there.
Okay. What did you do there?
I was in training. Uh-huh. I was part of the L&D. So it was fun, and I liked what I was doing. And I was, again, because of my background from media, I was doing a lot of work that was related to creative stuff.
Okay.
And I used to bring authors into the organization, and it was called Open Your Mind. The idea was that technical people need to know what is happening beyond
technology. Okay.
So what does creative people do? So I used to bring authors, and then I got a lot of feedback from the audience that was coming. They would come and say, why don't you bring others? Why are you bringing only authors? What about theatre guys? So I started bringing theatre people. So I had, mainly it was the arts.
Okay.
So I had theatre people and I had authors coming in. And initially I used to go out and, look for the authors and look for the theatre guys. I ran it for 2 years. And after, I think, about 6 months, the publishers were calling me. Oh, I know, we heard that you have a program. Can we send this author across? So I had like Amish Tripathi they called me and they said, Amish wants to come to Infosys. I worked in Infosys.
Yeah.
So Amish would like to come, and we heard this, you have this Open Your Mind. And so I had authors after that coming. So it happened so that I used to get some great authors. I had Deepthi Nawal who had come in. So, of course, we started with Shashi Deshpande, and it went on like that. Lots of authors, and, Jagdish Raja had come. So, it was a good program I was doing. Then I was also doing debates and all kinds of stuff that were related to a little bit of what I had done before. So, it wasn't completely something else,
Yeah,
it was linked to my...
It wasn't that 9 to 5 corporate life.
It was a 9 to 5 corporate life.
Timing wise.
Yes. I was also doing sustainability.
Okay.
And Chaya, you also know about the Spark program that I did. I started that, and So there were interesting stuff I did. So I loved what I was doing, and it was a different life. It was totally different. And but I was also writing a book on the industry, on the IT industry. In fact, that book is out now. It's going, probably it'll get published soon.
Okay.
So I was writing about the burnout in the IT industry, and in a way it also helped me go in and see, experience it and imbibe some of the stuff I was writing. So yeah, so it helped me. It was a two-way process. I was doing interesting stuff. I got more time to write, and I was also, imbibing stuff that I could write about.
So you felt that you're writing enough now?
I would never say I'm writing enough. You can always write more.
Why did you move out of corporate life? It sounded so exhilarating, what you were doing.
I just published a new book, and I'm intending to write 5 books in the series. It's a children's book.
Okay.
And the next 4 books, I need to devote a lot more time to writing. And I felt now I've taken those 6 years in corporate life, and I need to now write more.
So now, Janaki, what are your plans? You've just said you're going to write children's books.
Not only children's books. I have another 4 books in the series. This is Gulu Nami series. And
Gulu Nami is the name of your character there?
Yes, Gulu Nami is a character who lives inside Earth. So
something like Harry Potter types?
No.
Is it going to be like that?
No, it's not. Because this is about, it's a world within a world kind of thing. And I was just doing a lot of research, and I said, in the deep down Earth, inside, there is the core of the Earth. It has started solidifying. That's what science says.
Okay.
So I said, if it is solidifying, then a world can exist there. Was my imagination. So I started building a world there that the core of the Earth has 4 tribes and 4 villages. And the outer ring of the Earth is actually still liquid. So I thought that, okay, why not have one more tribe living in that liquid thing?
Okay.
So there are 5 tribes living inside Earth. And then I thought the book, like you asked me, is it Harry Potter? No, the Western world has given us a lot of fantasy, and they talk about the unicorns, the monsters, the beasts and all that. So I didn't want to talk about that. And at the same time, I didn't want to get bogged down by our own mythology-laced stories. We have our Panchatantra, and we have our Ramayana and Mahabharata. Yet I wanted to take the middle ground, create fiction which any child around the world can identify with. So the children, the earthlings as I call them, live in Andaman. This whole story is set in the Andaman and Nicobar archipelago. There are supposed to be 38 islands that are inhabited. This is geography. So, but there are 400 odd islands in the Andaman and archipelago. So what if the 39th island is inhabited is my story. Okay. So the 39th island is Indus Nagari.
Okay.
So all the names in this book are Sanskrit based.
Okay.
But the story is universal. It's appealing to everyone.
What is the story?
The story is about this boy or this creature within their eyes. I told you there are 5 tribes.
And those creatures look like human beings, or have you given them another?
No, they all have tails and they're different. And okay.
Thank God we're above the earth and not somewhere below.
But above the earth, on earth, there are these 3 children, and they are they are called Akash, Bhumi and Chandu.
Okay.
After the sky, the earth and the moon. So, and deep down earth is Patal sphere. Patal sphere, again, as we know in our Indian mythology, Patal is deep down.
Deep down.
So I decided that the earth, the sun and the moon would be the protectors of this boy deep down who is a superhero. So he is protector of the world and the galaxy.
Okay.
So he doesn't know his own powers. He realizes in the course of the first book, he and the others, the readers, along with the readers, he realizes he has powers. So it's the same with these three children. They are his protectors. They don't know they are his protectors. So they live on Earth, and these creatures come to Earth through a volcano, and the volcano is called Maru. So a lot of these names are.
So something like a science fiction?
It's somewhere, yes, a little
or geography fiction.
Yeah, it's science. Yes, it has got a little bit of because I've taken a lot from science and then built on it. You know, speculated on that. Yes, there is the core of Earth,
and what about the other ones that you say are lying in your comp?
There's this story on the IT burnout. You know, that's finished. That's with publishers, right? I trace the serial entrepreneurship. You know, a kind of how this whole thing of how in India, you know, we look at engineering as the base of all education. You know, engineering is the mother of all education.
Yeah.
There is no other career. So that was a kind of generational thing that happened with
Not
Indians.
happened, it's still happening.
Yeah. So if you notice, the earlier generation was looking at banking as a career. I mean, children had to get into banks, or it had to be government jobs. Then the next generation looked at, our children have to be engineers, they have to get into IT companies. So from there, I traced it from there, and this boy goes away to US to work, and then it's the next step is to get yourself a job in the US and
green card,
settle down and all that. And then the journey of many of these guys were that they would go there and set up companies and become serial entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So a lot of these serial entrepreneurs then didn't know what happened after the first company. After they set up the first company, sold the first company, they sort of got lost, because that kind of push and drive that they had to set up the first company
is not there.
Yeah,
now.
They lose somewhere, and then it's kind of a slide. So that's kind of my story. It's a kind of slide for this protagonist, and he doesn't know where he's going, and relationships, personal relationships suffer.
That's the first thing too.
Yeah, they suffer, and actually, the story started. This book I've been writing for nearly 11 years.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, because
is it going to be in 2-3 volumes or something?
No. It's
just one.
It's just that I wasn't getting it right, and I just wasn't getting it right, and the characters weren't coming alive to me, and maybe that's what helped me getting into an IT company and seeing what was happening, so I could bring a lot of that back into the book. It actually started with, I met a CEO in my journalism days. I met a CEO who quit everything and went into the Rajneesh ashram, and he was a CEO of an IT company. So I went to him, and he turned a sannyasi, and I asked him what happened, and his wife had left him.
Okay.
And he said, he told me that he had traveled all over the world, and he had seen all cities from the portholes of a plane. He had never seen a city properly.
Oh, okay.
So that line, in fact, I've used that line in my book too. So that was his life, and his wife walking out on him was part of his having no time for anything else except his career. So I think at that point he took stock of his life, and he said, I don't want this, and he quit everything and went into an ashram. So then I started studying and went and researched.
So it is a reality that men sell their Ferraris.
Yeah.
Sometime.
Yeah.
They work so much to buy a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And then they go sell it.
Yeah.
And say, I don't want a Ferrari.
I don't want all this.
So why go through all that at all?
Because and I also go to an ashram in the south a lot, and this is part of my life. So I've been seeing a lot of people there who live there in that ashram, and they all. I met a guy from IBM.
Successful corporate people.
Yes, I met a guy from IBM who's quit everything and he's living there. So it is happening to people. So I put all this together, the CEO who had quit, and in the ashram, people who are living there in the ashram. So I put that together, and this guy, quits everything, comes back to India, and it's called Following the Light Home. So comes back and settles, and he doesn't settle in an ashram. He uses his brains to set up a community and a kind of going back to the earth kind of living. So they have chosen to quit everything and lead a life of simplicity, of, going, living off the earth. People are doing it because they're fed up with whatever they went through in their corporate life. Like you said, politics. Is there politics in a spiritual life? Maybe there is. If you can stay away from it and lead your own simple lives. That's what they are all looking for.
Like
I think
Buddha
it's
said.
all phases of life, Chaya. Don't you think? I mean, we all go through those different phases.
Yes, you have to.
At that point, it's my career and I want to do this.
It is like that. Even Maslow's hierarchy. Then Krishna also talks about the 4 varnashrams, and it's all a phase. You have to go through it. Go through the phase when it should be. Then it's fine. You're slipping into one. But when you jump it and go from phase 1 to phase 4, that's going to hit you.
And maybe then she will take that phase and then she'll go back.
Yeah, that's it. That and forth will happen.
That back and forth might happen. But I think it's again completely a personal journey.
It's an evolution. One has to evolve from one to another to another.
Yeah. And you talked about Maslow's self-actualization. It's a kind of self-actualization, and you go through all that and you say, enough, I want to live in this simple life. You have been there, done that, and now So
you have to be there and do it and then come to this level.
Then come.
You cannot,
maybe like you said, a 30-year-old, it's a little too soon.
It's too soon. That's what I was explaining to that lady.
Unless she's going to choose that as a life. There are people who are in ashrams who are sannyasis at a very young age. They have left all that and they don't want the grahastha life and they want to go back to a sannyasi life.
Well, Janaki, I'm very glad both of us are following the actual phase.
I know. The self-actualization phase.
Yes, we've reached that level now. So we've also reached the level of the end of our show today now. Thank you very much, Janaki, for sharing your life with the listeners.
Thank you, Chaya.
And wish you all the best with your books.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to reading them.